John Calipari, highly complimentary of you last year, you with him. What do you see out of this new crop of freshmen at Lexington?
I don't know anything about him other than where I've seen him play, during the summer in those games. But one thing about John's teams, he really knows how to get them better, and they get better as the year goes on because he's got so many young guys, and I think he has a great way of molding those guys, and he himself, I think he's willing to adjust and change some things to fit each one of his teams. But there are certain things that he believes in that he's not going to waver on. But the fact is, his teams they always get better, and they're normally at their best at the end of the year.
Adam Silver has mentioned recently the one and done rule may go away very soon. Do you think that would help college basketball and spread the wealth a little bit?
I don't know if it spreads the wealth or any of that. The only thing that I will tell you that scares me about that rule is there's a lot of guys that come to college for a year, maybe 2 years, and they leave and they go try their ability at the professional level. And when it's over with, I can't tell you how many guys in the last 10 years have come back to school and finished their degree. With the one and done rule for those guys that leave early, and if they don't make it, that opportunity won't still be there. That's the one thing that concerns me about that rule. Otherwise, I do think there's some players that have the ability to go right out and make that contribution, and I just would like to think that if they do away with the rule, there's going to be something in place that for those young men that decide to do it, they get accurate information, and they don't do something that they're going to regret later on that's going to impact them for the rest of their lives.
When you do have a team like Kentucky that signs a handful of first-round picks every year, as a conference rival, what's the best way you can kind of compete with that to try to be able to hang with a team like that over the course of the season?
Well, there's different ways to play this game. There's different ways to go about doing it, and we're in a position that I'd like for us to sign some of those guys too. I've never been opposed to doing that. We've had our share of at Texas one and done guys, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But the one thing that I would like for us to do, and we're trying to do with our program, and I think as a coaching staff, is that we want to get good and be good every year, and that would be if you get in a position to sign a couple of those guys and they leave, and if you don't sign more of those guys, you can sustain it. And but we like our guys. We think that the one thing I can say about our staff is that we have the confidence that we're going to go out and evaluate guys what we see, and having an experienced staff that I do, I think my assistants do a great job of getting the kind of players that fit into how we want to play, how we want to work, and how we want to do things. And we'll continue to do that, but we're going to still try to recruit the best players in the country.
Rick, have you all been contacted at all, you or the program, by the FBI as it relates to their investigation? And beyond that, what has been your reaction?
No, no one's contacted us, and obviously it was some tough days, dark days for college basketball, but the fact is the game's bigger, and it'll be better. The game's bigger than all of us, and you hope, you hate to see it, you really do, and but the fact is it's been going on for probably 100 years, things that weren't supposed to be going on, and you hope that this is going to put the brakes on it for a little bit and make people take more notice and say, how can we continue to make the game better? But the one thing that will happen is that the game will come out even better, and it'll survive any of the things that go on that shouldn't go on. But the fact is it happened, and we have to deal with it right now. But we'll start playing games and hopefully get through all this, and again, the game will be better.
Could this be a good thing for the game?
Yeah.
Could this ultimately be a good thing?
Well, I think when you go back and you look at other things that have happened throughout, the course of basketball, and there's been other things, and I do think that every time something happens, it makes everyone stop and take a look at what they're doing, how they're doing it. It makes people that love the game look at the game and say, how can we prevent this? How can we make it better? And I do think it will make the game better. I just think the game is bigger than all of us, and I think there are people that have a great love for the game, and I think even though it put a black eye on the game of basketball, there's so many guys at every level, Division I, Division II, Division III, that do things the right way. And So I don't think everybody can be put into that category and think that there's something bad about college basketball across the board, because I don't believe that.
How can a head coach how can a head coach communicate to his staff, ensure in his staff, hey, we're not going to do this? How do you as the guy in charge, I guess, sort of keep your house in order in that regard?
Well, me personally, I've always tried to hire people that I know and people that I respect, and I know how they're going to do things, and but also know that if you ask me if I had a model for it, I would say it would start with if I were the commissioner, and I think we got truly one of the great commissioners ever that would be active in all hires and say, I want to know not just the head coach, but I want to know who he's hiring as assistant coaches, because the one thing, I don't think anybody in the coaching business is surprised at what came out. I think they were surprised that it was the FBI that did it. That was a big surprise. And but I think it's going to take ADs, when they hire people, they've got to make sure they understand everything, they find out everything they can about people. But again, if I were a sitting AD, one of my first questions would be, who's going to be on your staff and how well do you know them? But I think the good Lord that I've got a group of guys that I trust with my life, and I know how hard they work, and I think there's a lot of guys like that. I really do, and I think the majority of guys are like that, and but again, it makes everybody stop, and I think our compliance office does a great job with what they keep us informed with, and because we really have a great job. I mean, the University of Tennessee is bigger than all of us, and I think if we've got one job, is to protect the integrity of the University of Tennessee, and that we make sure that we're doing things the right way, and if we do win and we do get things done the way we want to, we know that it's been done the right way.
There's talk about sweeping changes, big changes. Mark Emmer mentioned that. Any thoughts you have to, you guys are all highly competitive people, and you said it's been going on for a long, long time. Any thoughts on how this problem can be tackled?
I don't know how they will do it. I think they'll look at a lot of, I think I've heard John Calipari talk about representation. I don't know if all kids need representation. I don't know if they do. And then you start saying who does, who doesn't. I don't know how that will work, but I think then when you get to the summer recruiting, I think it's taken us a long, long time to get it to a place to where, it was workable. I mean, we went through 10, 12 years of just, calendars changing back and forth, and got it down to where, July was a pretty busy month for us, but it goes back to, we have choices. We have decisions to make. We all want to win, and we got to make the choice. How are we going to do it? And if we want to cut corners, you could probably find someone that wants to cut corners with you. If you want to get in and grind it out, but I think the key is, from our point of view, is that I want to have an experienced staff of guys, because I think there's enough players out there for everybody. I think you've got to find out what fits your program, fits your profile, what fits your university, and what fits your culture, and then you got to go after those guys. But I think that any time you're competing, like you said, we're all competitive. You got to make choices, and then you have to live with those choices, and that's what it gets down to.
Rick, if the model was different, the economic model was different, as people talk about players being able to benefit from their images and likenesses, do you think that could work? Do you think that would change it significantly and take away some of these things?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it'd take it away. I don't know how many players they would have to figure out how many players do the universities really benefit from them being a part of the program. Because, there is a benefit now having a college scholarship. There's a benefit to that. There's a lot of kids on our campus that's going to leave owing a lot of debt. And so a college scholarship is worth something. And when you talk about the general, population of men and women's athletes, and you say, well, we sell that jersey or we sell that likeness, how do they come up with a money factor there? What is it worth? Because
well, if a company wanted to pay a kid $100,000, like the Olympic model, where it would be outside, but it would be,
I think there's a way to. I think if we really got to that point, I think there's a way to do that. I do, but I will say this. I'll go back to the one and done guys. The best guys that I've ever been around are the guys that I remember sitting down with Kevin Durant and T.J. Ford, LaMarcus Aldridge, and I could go down the list. But I can tell you those three guys. When I sat down with them and asked them, I said, "How long do you want to be in school?" Not one of those guys said one and done. They said, I will be in school as long as it takes for me to get myself ready. And the fact is, it took one guy 1 year and took the other 2 years. And LaMarcus probably would have been 1 year, but he got hurt. And I've coached a lot of other guys that weren't thinking that way at all. They were thinking to come to school, and I want to get an education. I want to have a chance to have a college degree. No one in my family's ever done that. And so I can remember, I go out all the time, and people ask me that question about, don't you think guys should stay in school 2 years? And I said, well, I tell you, I coached a young man by the name of Kevin Durant that after his first year in college, he left and he made $27 million. He was the 14th highest paid athlete in the world. I said, I'm not sure, or I said, no, I know for a fact I would tell my son to take the same deal. And I don't know of any parent that wouldn't do that. But now that's not every day. That's not going to happen every single day because the majority of that money came from Nike. And so I think that certain players probably have the marquee to where they could do some of that. And it's a tough question that you ask because if somebody said, hey, I'll give you $100,000 right now, but it takes away their amateur status, it's, what do you do other than, can you give me a trust? Can you put it in a trust or something where I can do this? I don't know, but I think those are the things that are going to have to be looked to because I think there probably are some guys that could demand a little money up front if they wanted to do that. But how we do that, I don't know. Because we've got to make it fair across the board for everybody, and you're not just talking men's basketball. You got to, once you get there, you got to talk about all sports, and so how does it all work out? It's going to take a lot of people getting together and really trying to figure out what's best for everybody.